We are back on It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati. Lindsay Patterson, Mike Santagata here. The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Cleveland Browns 24-6. Mike, first thoughts on the game.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson did not pass the Bengals test. Not a starting capable quarterback. Right? Like, I think about it every time they play a team and, like, the defense has a good game. And I go, like, okay, well, like, that guy just can't play in the NFL. Like, I need to see them do it against a guy that I know, like, this guy played in the NFL. Great game. Not a great first play. First play was a disaster. But overall, I would say a great game from the defense. I mean, they're opportunistic to force the turnovers, 2 red zone turnovers, or at least scoring area turnovers. I can't remember where that pick came from. I think it was the red zone, though. So 2 red zone turnovers. Overall, opportunistic, stifling at times. The offense was able to kind of shift themselves into neutral and do nothing and get away with it. It was a great defensive game, but where I have been this entire season since like week 4 is, yeah, they do this against guys who can't hang in the league. Dorian Thompson-Robinson to me is a guy that probably can't hang in the league, based off this game at least, and the other game. So next week, not to look too far ahead and just talk about next week, even though it's probably the biggest game that they'll play this season, unless they make the playoffs. Biggest game so far of the year. But Bo Nix, I know, can hang in the league. I've seen it enough. I've seen enough to go, okay, yeah, like this guy looks like a starting capable quarterback. It was kind of like the Russell Wilson was like, can he not? And it was like, yeah, he can. And he's shown he can throughout this year, I think. Like, obviously he used to be able to, but it felt like a lot of people at the end of the Denver days were saying like, no, he's not an NFL quarterback anymore. It's so bad. But you can take advantage of this Bengals defense. You can stay in the NFL. So that's the big test. But great on them to have that performance. Another pick for Geno Stone. Another sack for Trey Hendrickson. We're kind of getting like the usuals doing their usual thing a little bit. So 2 sacks, I think, for Chris Jenkins and a sack for McKinley Jackson.
Cedric?
So Cedric almost had a sack. Yeah, it was called grounding. So they did not give him the sack. Unfair.
I missed that.
Him and Murphy both on that play were good. Obviously Cedric. So like a lot of times in the NFL, your pass rush, your 2 ends, one guy goes low around the outside of the quarterback. One guy goes high around the inside of the quarterback. And the reasoning on that is you're going to see the pressure when they come high and think I can escape out behind that guy. And that's what happened there, where Murphy goes high and he thinks, okay, well, he's a little bit inside. Let me escape around him. But Cedric does a great job being the low rusher and rushing around deep around the outside. So normally that might not even be a pressure because of how deep he is. And TJ Watt gets a lot of these because they have the other guy run high, chase him down from behind and be able to make that play. And good on Murphy to be able to disengage and go out there and chase him as well so that he can't just run forward. Got trapped in between them. I thought it was a good combination from those 2. It should have been a sack for somebody. Murphy also had a nice little bull rush against the right tackle on the Trey Hendrickson sack. I don't know if you saw that, how close that tackle was. And it was kind of like, yeah, that's Myles Murphy right now. He can push that guy into the quarterback. Disengage? Not sure.
Yeah.
Not good at that yet. But he does have the speed, strength, athleticism to be able to push that guy back into the quarterback. So overall, like I've just talked about the defense, but I thought it was a great defensive performance. It has me a little bit, it has me intrigued for next week because it was great. It was a great performance. Can they stop the run outside that one play? Can they stop the run like they did? Can they, get some opportunistic turnovers next week? Jordan Battle had a heck of a game. I think a lot of guys you wanted to see play well, played well on defense. Talk about the young defensive linemen, talk about Jordan Battle, guys that you're hoping are going to be starters for this team, to be able to be good, cheap starters for this team, or at least play a positive role on the team. I think you got that. And maybe even that includes Geno Stone. I know I was a little bit hesitant on like, does he stay next year? I think now, man, 3 straight games with interception. I want to see him do something good against a quarterback that can play in the NFL. That's my only concern, where I just go, he's using great position on the pick. I know people just say, like, it was tipped. Yeah, but like you have to catch it. Like it gets tipped. It doesn't just get tipped to the defender on accident usually. The defender is usually in the right place for the tip. So did I miss anything? What was your initial reaction to this game? Besides, also, we'll get there, but oh my goodness, Joe Burrow on some of those plays was
He's insane. But yeah, we'll get to him in just a moment. I did want to just start with the defense, just because of their performance. And yes, you mentioned it. We know who they were playing against. It was a third string quarterback. Probably not going to be a starter in the league, but credit to him. He had a couple good runs and okay drives, but overall the defense did their part. And it's just there's a few things for me personally. I think of Mike Hilton, him having a
Oh
great
yeah,
game.
the blitzes that he had in this game were awesome. I wonder if that first play he had, I don't know if they roll a TFL
Yeah.
or a sack. I wonder if that was a handoff or a rollout. Like he got there so fast that he was
Yeah.
there before the ball would have been either handed off or fake handed off. So it might have been an abandoned fake to just be like, oh my God, let's not fumble.
It was awesome to see, and I think there was another thing after the game. I'm not sure if you watched the interview or not, and I'm sure you'll see it come across your timeline. But Mike Hilton was talking about how Lou Anarumo is
Simplified it.
simplifying, and I think all of that stuff is important. But then, Mike, I have so many questions. Why didn't they do this earlier?
Why
Why,
did it just last year into this year? Like, yeah. There's a lot of questions about like, okay, if that's why the defense turned around and it's not the opponent, it's just because they simplified everything. Why on earth was it still complex after last year? Like,
no.
why haven't you simplified everything since then? Maybe they just thought Bell and Stone could handle the communication from there, but it was kind of clear. I think this is a difference that you're not seeing as many miscommunications.
Yeah.
I think that was something you saw more before the bye week. And we were complaining about them. And it was like late into the year, still going like, oh my God, a miscommunication. It's like week 8, week 9, like get it together. Have seen that crack down a little bit. So that's nice. But I'm with you of like, well, why did it take so long? Like you're still getting the miscommunications. Like you never thought like maybe it's my system when I don't have supercomputer Jesse Bates back there to spit it all back out.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy. But hey, look, if it gets better and just seeing the youth, I think is encouraging. And again, I know who they're competing against, but at the same time, AFC North games are AFC North games. Division games are always crazy and a little bit weird. And the Cleveland Browns, even Joe Burrow talked about it in the post game on CBS that the Browns have kind of had their number for a while. So it's kind of nice to get to rally off a few over the last few years and show like, hey, we can compete with the other teams in the AFC North. They have to work on the Ravens and the Steelers right now. But I think overall, it was an okay performance on the offensive side. Joe is insane with some of his throws and what he's
Yeah.
able to do out there. I will say this before I get to one issue that happened in the game on the offensive side of the ball, but the offsides call. Obviously, I know it's a free play, but right before he threw the ball, and obviously the offsides penalty was out there, I thought just run the ball, just be super simple here. Run the football. And then no, Joe's like free shot, free play, Jamar Chase, get the record and gets him in the end zone. So that's always awesome to see. One of the things that we've watched this a little bit this year, and again, I hate putting anything a blame or anything when I talk about Joe Burrow, but the fumbles definitely still concerning in moments of the game. That one he would definitely like back. Something over the next few games you want to watch out for. But it has been an issue this year, and not taking anything away from Joe Burrow's play.
Was that fumble the dumbest play of Joe Burrow's
Yes,
career?
yes.
I think it's up there for sure. It was what a heat check to turn around and just sprint backwards for 15 yards and then get strip sacked. Like that was what a disaster. And I know the play call didn't work, but to me, like the play call is like 10% of the issue here. You still have a field goal. You get to waste time if Burrow just falls down, or if he just holds onto the ball, or if he just doesn't run backwards that far, just two hands on the ball and just falls down or tries to maybe run around that guy. 90% of that issue was Joe Burrow acting like a 7-year-old on Madden, where he's just like, no, that guy's faster than you, Joe. You can't just outrun him going backwards. Tough. That was a very tough play, but end of the day, it didn't end up mattering. That
No.
was like this game was closer, I think, than the score showed.
Yes.
Because at one point it was 17-6, and the Browns looked like they were so close to scoring a touchdown and making that into a 1-possession 4-point game. And the Bengals offense was so bad during that time period that I wasn't sure that the Bengals would be able to go down there and score. I was like, it would be so stupid if they get everything that they need to make the playoffs, then they drop this game to the Browns. But then they didn't. in
Yeah.
either of those scenarios because the Titans didn't come back either. So yeah, it was up there for the dumbest play of Joe Burrow's career, but glad it happens in a game that it didn't matter. I think
No.
that would be more embarrassing if it was a island game like this week coming up, or
Uh-huh.
if it was in the playoffs. Doing it against the Browns in this scenario is probably when you can get away with it when the other team scores 6 points.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that touchdown throw in the first quarter was insane.
Superman. He saw the trailer, didn't he? The new
It's
Superman
insane.
trailer.
Insane. Honestly, I'll be completely honest with you. I watched it happen at the game and I thought, was it? And then I watched the replay and I'm like, that is clear as day a touchdown. And it was insane.
And knee was down, right? Like
Yeah.
there's screenshots, whatever of that, but that didn't matter because he
No.
tripped on Volson. It's not college. It's insane that there are fans, and this was true about Green Bay fans like 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, where Goff fell down and then got up.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
I saw that.
well, yeah, but his knee was down. It's like, what? And then they're like showing images of like, and then somebody will reply like an image of the holder has his knee down on field goals. Like, well, he's not down, is he? It's like, well, maybe he should be. It's like, what?
That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
So it's not how it works. It's not how it works in the NFL. You have to tap that guy down or be the reason he falls down. The defense has to knock him down, put a finger on him. I know that you could argue, well, the defender did force him down. Well, because he pushed the offensive lineman into him. Doesn't matter. You have to tap him. All you had to do was just turn around and tap him. Even if he was like, as he was falling down, just, like slap him on the leg or something, it probably would have been ruled down. But because nobody even touched him, it counted. And yeah, that throw was awesome. And weirdly enough, like the other throw he made in this game where he's like going, just kind of like flipped it out that way. Like that got kind of undersold because of the Superman pass.
The Jamar Chase.
Yeah, just that little Drew Sample, I think.
Oh, Drew Sample. Oh,
The
yeah, no,
little
Drew
flick.
Sample. And then the one to Jamar. Well, it was probably more of Jamar making the catch. That was
Yeah, the
unbelievable.
one-handed catch from Jamar.
Yeah, that was
But
pretty
the
cool.
Drew Sample play, that throw was crazy. I think that was a crazy good throw. So this was a great game if you want to see Burrow make highlight throws. If you're one of those people that still from like 2019 believe that he doesn't do that, this was a great game for that. But overall, I think it was a good Burrow game. But I think you get knocked down a full letter grade for me for that crazy fumble. So it's like a B, maybe a B plus for me.
100%. He's insane out there. So I just brought it up because obviously it's something to bring up in the game, but it didn't take away from what Joe Burrow did out there today. And honestly, we say it every week. It's insane to think about the offensive line that he took to the Super Bowl, but they were rotating all kinds of different guys out there against Myles Garrett, which is terrifying when you think about this defense still. I want Myles Garrett to be traded somewhere else. I want him out of Cleveland. It is still terrifying when you see him go against Joe Burrow. He's one of the best. And I just think overall, I don't know, even the offensive linemen. I guess we should talk about the Amaris Mims situation. For me personally, I felt like he was just passionate. He wanted to be out there. And that's what I want out of my right tackle. He's like, I'm fine. Get me back out there. I want to protect my franchise quarterback. So I didn't have a problem with it. I don't think it's a big deal. I think these guys are passionate and they just want to play football.
I think, yeah. So this is just me guessing on a lot of this, but I think Mims got checked out and the trainer said you could come back in, gave him his helmet, right? Like you are cleared that you could go back into this game. But I think a decision, maybe it was Taylor, maybe it was somebody else on the medical staff, or maybe it was even pitcher. But I think it was somebody higher up said, like, we're going to hold Amarius out because we're up 2 scores. We're going to be down. We might be down Orlando Brown again next week. And next week is super important. So while this game's a 2-score game, we're going to hold Amarius out. Yeah. And Amarius is going, screw that. I've got my helmet. I can go play. Like, I'm seeing Burrow get killed out there. Let me out there to protect my quarterback. And I don't think Frank made the call to hold him out. Like, that would be crazy to me, right? Like, I don't think he has that authority. Frank. I don't think, but it is possible, but I don't think he has that authority. But I think he had to be the messenger. I think he had to go, hey, you have to, that's your guy. So you got to go tell Amarius, like, he's not coming back into the game. And obviously that created the fight where Amarius might not be mad at Frank. He's mad at the decision to keep him out and wanting to go out there. And Frank's got to be the guy to tell him, like, hey, we're not putting you back in right now because we need you next week.
Also do not have a problem with the coach telling him that, but at the same time,
No.
like, when it's I like the passion, the guy
Mhm.
wants to be out there, but also it is smart on the coaching staff to be like, okay. And I know he ended up getting sidelined more in the second half, but I think overall it was an okay decision.
Yeah.
But it's gonna get blown
I
up.
think from everybody, it was fine. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see that passion from Marius, but I also understand the coaching staff saying,
Yeah.
like, hey, we're going to hold him out. And I understand it's tough to be frank in that situation and go,
Could you imagine?
hey, go stand up to the 7-foot monster and tell him he can't come back in this game and getting screamed at.
Yeah. Two things really quick. Chase Brown, another impressive day. It's crazy because Chase Brown can have what I feel like maybe is a quiet day, and he's still impressive when you look at the stat sheet after the game.
Yeah. It was, I felt like they did run the ball better than I expected because I was on here, I was saying, like, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball that well in this game because the Browns just have typically done a pretty good job against their run game. Didn't happen this game. Like I was saying, I kind of thought about it at the end of the last show. I was like, well, I guess this game hasn't happened when the Browns were like out of it. Like, this game usually happens middle of the season. They get up and they want to play. And I'm not saying they didn't want to play today, but I do think that it could have weighed a little bit on the minds of like the Bengals got a lot more to play for. Like, their guys are going to be more fired up to get out there and try to win this game than the Browns guys, just psychologically, I think. So they were able to run the ball pretty well. And they did some interesting stuff because they hit the edges. Nobody complained about that cracked toss when it went for 20 yards. Toss plays look nice when they hit big. Low floor play, of course. We've seen them tackles for a loss, but they ran a pin pool play, and I haven't seen them run in a successful pin pool play in years. I feel like it's been years since I've seen them run a successful one where basically somebody on the play side is going to pin down, and the guy to his left, because it was a right side play, is going to run around him, pull out into the open space. They had two guys in the open space. I think it was both Karras and Kappa, Mims pinning down, and that worked, even though you're probably not talking about those guys like they're supreme athletes. And Karras also made a heck of a play on that toss play too. I think getting out in space, getting in position, making the block, that was awesome to see him running out there like that. I thought he did a great job. Run game is pretty good though. It was pretty good. Got the T Higgins touchdown and the Jamar Chase touchdown, like you were talking about. And I didn't get the 2 TDs, but it's all right. My live update is I've been staring at it a little bit. Like, I keep looking over. I have a 68% chance to win according to Yahoo right now, even though I started Jalen Hurts, who got concussed in the first quarter.
Sheesh, it's absolutely crazy, but I think just overall when I think about the offensive performance too, just one more player that I feel like we have to talk about. I know I mentioned one of his insane grabs. They got the touchdown pass late, but over 1,500 yards on the season. He broke his own record, Bengals record again.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely insane what Jamar Chase is able to do this year. I think he's going to get the 20. They're going to do everything possible to get him the Triple Crown in the next 2 games, and I really hope it happens. We'll see. It's obviously a tough defense in the Denver Broncos, but we'll get to that matchup later this week. Jamar Chase, anything you would like to add? And T. Higgins, I do want to add, it was good to see him, not a major injury, back out there. Everything was okay, because I thought then and there, this is just so unfortunate for T. You don't want this. You don't want to see him, get injured anymore this season. It's obviously a big off season for him. But we can put both of them together. T, Jamar.
Both guys simply incredible. I think it's the Bengals just have a unique 1-2 punch that nobody else in the NFL has. And I think that's why you want to keep it, because of a game like this where they put up this type of performance where they're beating great corners. There's the engine of the offense. Shout out Yossi Voss with another low red zone touchdown. Insane to be able to 6. And I think they're all low red zone touchdowns. They're all like within the 10-yard line. But yeah, with those two, and Jamar is obviously like the alpha number 1 dog, but to have a T Higgins as your number 2, where I would say top 10-ish receiver in the NFL, like, that's incredible to have that, because I think T's been having, I think per game, one of his best years. Like, you might look at the total stats and go like, did he even hit 1,000 yards? Like, he's missed games. And I think if you prorate that out, I haven't done it myself, but I think you look at that and go, like, that's a heck of a year. because I just feel like anytime T's out there, I'm like, man, T Higgins having a game. The only game I can think of that he was in there and didn't have a great game was the Cowboys one. I know that one wasn't a good performance for him. We talked about it. Every other game, he's been consistently great. So I think this is another game that shows, like, why would you break this up?
Yeah, all three of them. I love that they're going out there together. It's awesome to see. It's working for them in their little streak. And I think the percentage of it, we've talked about it plenty, feels higher than it did probably a month ago. And we'll get to more of that later this offseason. But the Cincinnati Bengals were able to get a win versus the Cleveland Browns. Second home win of the season, 24-6, a huge one, short week for them. They play the Denver Broncos in a survive in advance of regular season to see where it goes with the help of other teams. Mike has a really good piece. Make sure you check it out. It actually connects to his performance today, 2 sacks on the day for Chris Jenkins. And Mike has a really good breakdown over on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Make sure you follow him on Twitter, Bengals_Sands. You can follow me at Lindsay Patterson. Thank you for listening to It's Always Game Day in Cincinnati.